Hey, if you've been thinking about getting one of these portable fridge freezer units like this one, these are really useful things to have either as your primary cooler or as a secondary cooler. You can use them as a fridge or a freezer. Now this one's called the Blizzard Box, and the company Type S sent it to me to test out, and I really wanted to do a really good test of it before I shared it with you. So that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. We've been primarily camping in remote areas and been off the grid most of that time. So we've been using this as a secondary freezer and keeping it at between 0 and 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's been running like that for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 weeks straight. And I've been powering it using a portable battery. So I thought that would be a really good test. We got a bunch of stuff in here. So how did it do? Well, stick around and I'll show you. So what can you really say about a fridge, freezer like this one? It basically just keeps stuff cold, right? And that's what you expect it to do. But if you're not familiar with these types of portable units, they have a variable temperature setting that allows you to use them as either a refrigerator or a freezer. So you switch between the two basically by adjusting the temperature setting that you want to keep it at. So this Blizzard Box actually has a temperature range between 0 degrees Fahrenheit and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you can set that using either Celsius or Fahrenheit. But as I said, I've been using it primarily as a freezer, so we've been keeping it between 0 and 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Now to set the temperature setting, you just basically hit this set button and you hold it down and you get to the temperature setting, and then using these plus and minus keys here, you can adjust the temperature up and down. So obviously if you want to use it as a freezer, something below freezing, and if you want to use it as a fridge, something above freezing, up to like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the digital readout here on the front is always going to display the current temperature inside the cooler. So right now it's set to 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and as it gets down to 0, which I think is the current setting, it'll adjust down to 0. So you'll always see here what the current temperature is inside. Now you can have that display show in either Celsius or Fahrenheit, and again that's just another setting here. Press the set button and then you can toggle between F and C. So those are really the basic settings that you need to know about in order to operate this guy. You basically plug it in and you hit the power button here and you set the temperature to what you want it to be at. And actually it'll remember your previous setting if you've already had it on before. And then you adjust the temperature, and that's pretty much it. It maintains that temperature as best it can, and you just watch the temperature drop. Now on the front here you also see it has a USB charging port. Now this isn't something that we've needed, so we haven't really used it. It does work, and it's a 5-volt USB plug. Now there's a couple of things that I think could be improved, and one of them is this display. It's really difficult to read when it's really bright out. So like today it's sunny, and if I'm looking at it I can't really make it out in terms of what it says. It's really difficult to see without covering it up. Now at night it works really well. Now the other thing that I noticed using it for 6 weeks is that sometimes it tends to drift the temperature up higher than you'd think it would before cooling it back down. So it can vary up to like 5 degrees, sometimes 6, 7 degrees above the setting once it reaches that, before it kicks in again and starts cooling. It hasn't really been consistent. Sometimes it does that. Sometimes it maintains a really consistent temperature to where you have it set at. But it probably has a lot to do with the ambient temperature around the cooler. It's pretty well insulated, but in a really warm situation like this, it obviously has to work a little bit harder to keep it down to like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. But overall, it always comes back and maintains that temperature that you have it set to. Now inside, it's got plenty of room in here. I think the capacity, the official capacity, is 41 quarts. So that's 38.8 liters, if that's the way you think in liters. It has a couple of baskets here. It's got two little sections. It's got a smaller section up here up front, and then a larger, deep section here in the back. And these baskets really make it handy to get stuff in and out. Now, I've got frozen pizzas in here. I've got frozen hamburger, fish, and the stuff that's been in here for actually, you know, that entire 6 weeks that we've kept frozen. And even this bag of ice that we've had for about a month in here. And, you know, in the front area, ice cream. Gotta have ice cream. There's a little light in here also that turns on, so it's really handy, especially when it's dark. You can pop the lid and you can see inside without having to use a flashlight or something. Now, one of the things that I really like about this, and it's kind of unique, I think, from some of the other ones I've seen, is that the lid can open from both sides. I can open it from this side. I can open it from this side, which means I can take the entire thing off. The hardware on it seems to be really good. It's really easy to open and close, and hasn't worn out or, you know, gotten stuck or anything like that. You can really tell it's plastic, but it's really sturdy and well built. So you're probably wondering, what are your options for powering this this unit, and how much power does it actually draw over time? And those are things that I was really curious about, and I did some testing, and I want to let you know what I found. But it comes with two power cables. It comes with an AC power cable, so if you want to plug it into a standard household 120 volt AC outlet, you can do that. And it also comes with a DC cable that plugs into the same spot, but it has a 12 volt DC plug on the end, so you can plug it into a standard cigarette lighter style receptacle. So that means you can plug it into your car or your vehicle, your RV, boat, or, you know, a portable battery bank that has that type of power plug or connection in it. So that's what I've been doing, is I've been using that battery bank, which has one of those. Now, over time, how much does this actually draw? As I said earlier, I've been using it at between 0 degrees, and I've been moving that between 0 and 5 degrees, and I thought that would be a really good test of this. So what I found out is that when it's set to either 0 or 5, it cycles on and off like a regular fridge would. When it does, it draws between 2.6 roughly and 3.6 amps. And that comes out to about 38 watts is what I've seen, between 38 and 50 watts while it's in that cooling mode. Now it shuts off and then it goes to 0, and then it kicks back on again when it wants to cool again. So over time, you know, it's difficult to measure what that is over the span of a few hours, but I did some calculations, and I figured out that at the 0 degree setting, it draws on average about 1 amp hour when you're using it at that 0 degree setting. And when it's set to the 5 degree Fahrenheit setting, it draws about 0.7 amp hours. So to put that in perspective, if you had a 100 amp hour battery, or if you had 100 amp hours at your disposal, setting it to the 5 degree setting, it'll run for about 6 days, 24 hours a day for 6 days roughly, before it depletes all of that 100 amp hours. So I've actually tested that. It actually works. It ran for about 6 days straight. Now, those are the tests that I've done at that really below freezing level. Obviously, if you wanted to use it as a refrigerator, you know, so you're going to keep it at maybe 40 degrees, 45 degrees, just to keep some things cold, some drinks, some other stuff like a fridge, it would probably run for a long time at that, because it just doesn't have to work that hard to keep it that cold. Now, the other thing worth mentioning is that when you're using it in a 12 volt DC mode, say you have it plugged into your car battery, it does have some protections in there so that you don't drain your battery. And it's got some low voltage cutoff settings that you just set in here. There's a low setting, a medium, and a high. So that's basically telling it what voltage you want it to to shut off power to this thing before it discharges or gets your car battery or whatever battery too low. If it does go into that protection mode, so it cuts the power, but you really need that fridge or freezer to be running, it also has this override setting here on the front. It's this red switch, and it's called like emergency operation. So if you wanted to continue cooling despite the power level of your battery, then you just flip this on, and then you can override that low power disconnect. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this guy. In the 6 weeks we've been using it pretty consistently, it's performed really well. And aside from those two issues, with the brightness of the display and the temperature drift every once in a while, I really don't have a lot of complaints about it. It's worked really well, and it's kept everything frozen, and the power consumption's been pretty low and quite impressive actually. So it's going to be a great accessory for us and our RV travels. Now, I think it's priced around $699, I think last time I checked, but I'll leave links in the description if you want to check it out and dig into that a little bit further. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the review and got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.